Welcome to the Woodworkers video on door lock preparation and how to install a mortise lock. With Woodworkers we supply the doors, and we can supply the doors pre-hung in a frame. We can also supply the hardware. We have a range of hardware kits for each application. We have French door kits, bifold kits, entry kits. In this case we've got a pivot door here, so we have a pivot roller lock kit. If you actually buy our hardware, then if you request it, we can actually fit the mortise lock cut out into the door so that it will slot inside nice and easily for you. We can do the mortise lock cut out for you, but we only put the hole in the side of the door. We don't do any holes in the face. This is done on site by your installer. When we supply the actual door from the factory, you'll get it exactly like this. So we've done the mortise hole cut out, we've cut for the face plate, there's no holes in the side here. These are done on site by the installer. So when it goes on site, before he actually fits this lock, he needs to paint the inside of the mortise lock cutout with a sealer. So George is the installer and he's going to go through the process. This is the part that Woodworkers does not do. This is your installer. First of all, he's going to put the sealer inside the lock, make sure no moisture can get in there and the wood can't expand.
So use the lock body or the template that's provided in the case. You fold the paper down the middle where it's indicated and fold over to the top of the line that's at the top of that plate. Position the paper on the door edge like so.
Have a look at the template. There's a line down there which shows you exactly where you've got to fold the template, which gives you the space in here for the actual lock itself.
Cylinder position.
Yeah, and you line up the top of the template, which is the top of the strike plate, with the preparation that's already been done. So basically these points that you do in here is going to be the center of the hole that you're just about to drill, yeah?
That's right.
Okay. So when you drill in these holes, you'd drill from one side, then you would drill from the other side rather than go through the door. Yeah. Okay, great. So once you've actually drilled out the holes, what's the next stage? I can see here you're trying to tidy it up, is that correct?
Yeah, so the cylinder fits through the door. So clean the hole out of all the dust that's in there. Check, put the lock body in to check if you've got the hole right so you can cylinder can go through. Place your cylinder in the middle of the door with the screw provided. That will go into this hole here through the face plate of the lock body.
Okay, so you've removed all the debris from the that was formed from the hole that you've put in the side. You've now fitted the lock, so what we need to do is fit the escutcheon. So there's two ways this can be fitted. You can either use these tubes, and the best way to do that is actually fit the tube and the screw onto one side of the plate before you install it, or if you don't want to use the tubes, you can actually use screws and just screw that plate directly onto here. In this instance, George has drilled a hole through, so this is for the tubes. This particular escutcheon comes in two pieces. The plate slots over the top. It needs to be screwed in place. We put the cover plate over the top. Alright, now we've got the lock fitted, the next stage is to actually fit the strike plate. If you don't fit this frame perfectly plumb on site, something's not quite lined up, then the lock won't line up with the strike plate. And if that happens, you've got problems. So we never fit the strike plate in the factory, it's always done on site. Okay, so you've absolutely got to make sure that the door's actually centralized. So if you've got a 50mm gap or whatever it happens to be on that side, between the edge of the jamb and the door, you've got to do exactly the same on this side. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
So to the center of the strike plate, we'll go into the center of the edge of the door. So you measure the thickness of the door, which is 44mm.
So in this particular instance, it's 44mm.
We've got 44mm door plus 50mm.
Yep. So you've got 50mm plus 22.
22.
Okay, because 22 is half the thickness of the door. Yep.
Lining up the center, the screws to that center line that we've marked, 72 in, and position this in the middle of these openings. Just screw these off. Just score across.
So this plate has to be recessed into the actual jamb. So
Jamb.
what you're doing here is using the Stanley knife to give you a nice sharp edge. So when you chisel that little bit out, you've got a beautiful straight edge there rather than jagged chisel marks. So we've got the strike plate and we've got what we call the dust box. This actually fits behind the strike plate. So they give a nice neat finish here for the lock, and at the top here, this is where the roller goes in. You need to have a nice smooth surface for the actual roller to operate correctly.
Measure the width of the box, line it up with the marks you've made. Just going to there, and even the roll catch we can mark there to there.
So the size of the drill bit actually lines up with the size of the dust box. So you need to actually put a hole in that actually corresponds to exactly the same size. We've marked out here for the dust box and the strike plate. So we now need to sink this in the depth of both components put together. He'll do that roughly with the router, and then he'll go around with a chisel to straighten everything up. Okay, so most of the timber's been taken out with the router, and now what George is doing is actually using the chisel to actually make nice sharp clean edges. So what we need to do is get rid of the pencil marks. So what George is doing is sanding away all the pencil marks before we actually fit the plate. Okay, so first of all we put the dust box in. Dust box fits perfectly, then the strike plate goes over the top, and now we need to screw the strike plate into position. All our kits actually have a little snib on the inside rather than just using a normal key. So the moment of truth now is to see if it actually works. There you go, perfect. Okay, so now what's happened is we've actually fitted the lock and we need to fit the handle. In this case we've got Woodworkers Helio handles. So George will show us how to fit it. Basically what you need to look out for is you need to make sure that you have your handle high enough. So first of all, it's not going to catch where the lock is, and also you're not going to be drilling through where your lock body is. So you need to keep this at a level where you're actually missing everything, and in this case we're going to put it in the center of the stile. What George has done now is fitted the lock and he's fitted the handle. We need to make sure that it actually catches correctly. Now in this instance here, we're not actually fitted into a wall, so this timber here is going to move slightly, but let's assume that a slight adjustment needs to be made to the roller catch. If the roller catch sticks out too far, then the door won't close properly. You'll get a big clunk and a big bang on there. If it's too far in, the door will just more or less blow open. So what we need to do is adjust this roller to the correct depth. So we're putting the Allen key in here because inside here we've got a little grub screw. You take the grub screw out. Inside the hole there's a small screw. This screw, when adjusted, brings the roller in or out. In this case he's taking it in, turn it the other way and it'll come out. You try it in your frame to make sure it's exactly where you want it to be. If it's where you need it to be, you get the grub screw and you put it back in there. Once you've got this exactly right, what you can do is put a little bit of Loctite on this grub screw, so when it goes in and locks into position, it can't move at all. Now we have the roller catch in exactly the position it needs to be. We close the door to make sure, fits nicely. We check the key, it locks. That's the job finished. So the installer's now finished the job. Thank you very much for watching the Woodworkers video.